Good morning to all.
Good
Good
morning, sir.
morning, sir.
So today we will discuss timer programming for ARM processor. Is screen is visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
As
Okay, fine. So in ARM actually we have a general purpose timers available, and basically you know all of you the purpose of timer, right? So timer and counters are designed to count cycles of peripheral clock. So sometimes we are interested in counting the internal clock, and sometimes we want to use our ARM processor as an object counter. So in that cases we need to count externally supplied clock. So for example we have a infrared sensors available, or optocoupler is available, or some kind of a sensors which detect the object, and depending on the number of object passes through the sensor, it will provide a number of clock pulses to our chip, and the number of clock pulses will be counted by the ARM processor. So for such applications we will be using this timer as a counter, and to provide the time delay we will be using our ARM chip as a internal timers. So whenever we are using to provide a delay, time delay, we are counting basically internal clock pulses, and while using as a counter we are counting the external pulses provided at the input of timer pins. So timers and counters, it can generate interrupts or it can perform any other action specified at timer values. So that means there are match registers are available. As and when the count value reaches up to the value stored in a match registers, then certain events will be generated. We will be able to generate the interrupts, we will be able to toggle some GPIO pins. So normally you know the counting will starts from 0, and for example in our reference register we have 100. Then whenever the count value will reach up to 100, automatically it can generate the interrupt, automatically it can toggle the GPIO. That can happen. So ultimately we will be able to use this in real time applications where we want to control the things in a sequential manner. Even we can also use this concept to generate the pulse width modulation. If we increase the reference value in the registers, the width of pulse we will get at the GPIO pin will be more. If we reduce the reference value, the width will be less. So if you continuously dynamically change this reference register value, then you will be able to get the different width at the output of the GPIO pin. So this is how we can also use timer to generate the pulse width modulation on the GPIO pin. Then it has also for capture input to trap the timer value when input signal transitions are there. So it can also generate the capture interrupt. So ultimately certain events we want to capture. So there are certain capture registers are also given there, and it will trap the timer value. Whenever timer value will reach at that level, automatically interrupts will be generated. That is known as a capture interrupts. Multiple pins can be selected to perform a single capture or a match function. That means you can use or and etc. logical operations if you want to use multiple pins. So we have a 432-bit match registers available in ARM processor, and we can use it in this way. One is a continuous operation with optional interrupt generation on match. Let me explain this in more detail. What is the meaning of this actually? In this case, your timer will run continuously, and whenever the timer timer register value is equal to the value stored in the match register, automatically interrupt will be generated. So it is a continuous operation. So at regular interval, the interrupt will be generated, and if you want to accomplish certain tasks, you can do on the interrupt generation. Then one more thing is that whenever the value will reach up to the reference register value, that is match register value, automatically it will stop the timer. At that time, you have an option to generate the interrupt. So optionally, you will be able to generate the interrupt as and when timer will reach up to the match register value. But once the matching occurs, it will stop the timer there. So only at once the interrupt will be generated, or at once whatever the action you want to take, you can take, and then after it will stop there. So there is a difference between these two. In this case, it will happen continuously. Here it is only once. Then another one is that it will reset the timer on the match with optional interrupt generation. That means whenever matching occurs, the timer will be resetted to 0. So that means, for example, in a match register, you have some value, let's say 1000, you have stored in a match register. Timer starts counting from 0. It will reach up to 1000, and whenever it will reach at the 1000, the interrupt will be generated or GPIO pin will be toggled, but at that time, timer register will be resetted to 0. In this case, timer register will not be resetted to 0, but it will stop the timer. That means timer register will be in a hold position. Timer register will be at the 1000 position itself. And while in this case, what will happen? The timer will continue to increase. Whenever match occurs at 1000, the interrupt will be generated or GPIO pin will be toggled, but timer will still continue to increase. And then it will also overflow after the maximum value. And then after again it will start from 0, and again it will increase. Whenever it will increase up to 1000, automatically interrupt will be generated or GPIO pin will toggle. So there are different mode of operations in a timer, and there are registers to define the working of this timer. There are 4 external outputs per timer corresponding to the match registers with the following capabilities. The one is set low on match. The meaning of this is that whenever your timer register is equal to match register, particular GPIO pin will be set to low. Then set high on match. Sometimes you require that whenever matching occurs, I want to set that particular pin to the logic high level. I want to operate some relay which is connected there, and that relay is operated with a logic high level. Then we can set it to high on match. For example, you have connected their common anode LED, where anode is connected to +5 and cathode is connected to pin. Then you would like to set it to low because you want to glow the LED whenever matching occurs. If you have connected some relay there which operated with help of active high signal, then you will use this set high on the match. You can also do the toggling on match. Sometimes we require toggling, that if the device is on, we want to make it off. If the device is off, we want to make it on. So we want a toggling action. So if we require a toggling action, then also we can decide it there. And the fourth thing is do nothing on match. Right? So in that case, nothing will happen on the GPIO pin. And this is actually required. So whenever we are generating a timer delay with help of a timer, we don't want to do anything on the IO ports. So in that case, you can select do nothing on match. So these are the 4 possibilities. In a timers, if we look at these chips, LPC2129, 2294, etc., all these ARM70 DMI chips, These chips are having a two 32-bit timers. These timers are also known as timer 0 and timer 1. Both are 32-bit. And both are having a 32-bit prescaler. Prescaler means, suppose if you decide prescaler register content is a 2, then at every 2 clock pulse the timer register will be incremented by 1. If value stored in prescaler register is 4, then at every 4 clock pulse the timer will be incremented by 1. So ultimately, prescaler will be useful to reduce the rate of timer operation. So ultimately, it will control the tick rate of the timer. So tick rate of the timer will be controlled by the value stored in this 32-bit prescaler register. PCLK is a peripheral clock. For example, if you want to operate timer at every clock pulse, then you don't store anything on the prescaler register, right? So in that case, at every clock pulse, timer register will be incremented by 1. But suppose if you want to reduce the timer rate, then you can store 2 here. So tick rate will be divided by 2. So at every 2 clock pulse, the timer will be incremented by 1. If you store 4 here, at every 4 clock pulse, timer will be incremented by 1. If you store 8 here, then at every 8 clock pulse, your timer register will be incremented by 1, and so on. So it is basically a 32-bit prescaler register, very much useful to reduce the tick rate of the timer. So ultimately, the tick rate of the timer is controlled by prescaler register. There are prescaler counter which increments on each tick of PCLK, and whenever the value reaches to the prescaler register, the timer count is incremented and prescaler counter will be reset on the next PCLK. That means, for example, in a prescaler register, I am storing value 4. So what will happen actually, at every peripheral clock, that value will be incremented by 1. As soon as it will reach to the 4, it will generate the tick rate for the timer, as well as itself it will reset to 0. So at every 4 clock pulse, the tick will be applied to the timer and timer register will be incremented by 1 at every time. So this will cause timer counters to increment on every PCLK when PR is equal to 0, every 2 PCLK when PR equal to 1, and so on. So for example, if we set prescaler register PR for timer 0, T0 PR means prescaler register of timer 0. If you set this and timer 1, that is T1 PR is equal to this. That means what we are doing here is we are setting T0 PR equal to 60,000. So it will assign value to the prescaler. That means whenever 60,000 peripheral clock will be applied, then only 1 tick will be given to the timer. This is one more register called timer control register, TCR. In a TCR, actually it is also a 32-bit register, but out of that, the first bit is very important. Bit 0 is a counter enable bit. Whenever this bit is 1, the timer counter are basically enabled for the counting, right? So its reset value is 0. That means on reset it is automatically a 0. So if you want to use the timer or a counter, you have to enable this bit, because by default it is a 0. So with a programming you have to enable this bit. That's why whenever you want to run the timer, you have to set this bit to 1. Then only the timer will start or a counter will start. If you want to reset your counter or a timer register value, this bit 1 you have to use, right? So when it is a 1, the timer or counter will be synchronously reset on the next positive edge of the PCLK. So if you want to reset it, you have to set this bit equal to 1. Then bit 2 to 7 are not useful. These are reserved for a future use. So for example, if I am saying that T0 TCR equal to 0x02, if I am giving this instruction in a C language, then what it will do, it will set bit 0 equal to 0 and then bit 1 is equal to 1. In that case, it will reset the timer, because this bit is a set and this bit is a reset. So this is the reset and this is set, so it will reset the timer. If we set, let's say if you give this instruction T0 TCR equal to 0x01, that means whenever I am giving this value 0x01, my bit 0 is 1 and bit 1 is 0. Bit 0 is 1, that means if this bit is 1, the timer or a counter will be enabled. So it will start the timer basically. Right? And if you want to stop the timer, then you have to make everything 0. That means you have to make this also 0 and this also 0. It will stop your timer or a counter, whatever you are using. So ultimately, in a nutshell, if you want to start the timer, you have to say 0x01. And if you want to stop the timer, you have to say 0x00. And while timer is running, in between, if you want to reset the timer, you have to say 0x02. This is for timer 0. If you are using for timer 1, then same command, but only instead of T0, it will be a T1. Nothing else. Everything else will remain same for timer 1. Right. So while writing a program, just you have to remember that if you want to start the timer, you have to give this value 0x01 to the timer register, timer control register, 0x00 to timer control register to stop the timer, and 0x02 to reset the timer register. To reset the timer, and you have to store the 0x02 to the timer control register TCR of corresponding timer. Then one more is timer counter register TC. Timer counter register is basically for a timer 0, it is a T0 TC. This is the address of that register. And for timer 1, it is a T1 TC, and again this is the address of that register. Remember, every register in ARM processor has 32-bit address. So you will be able to access those registers with help of addresses also, because this will be needed whenever you will be writing assembly language programming. In a C language programming, you are including the header file, so these names are known to the compiler, T0, TC, T1, TC, etc. But if you are writing an assembly language program, then you will be using LDR kind of instruction to load the value in the register, STR type of instructions to store the value in the register. So in LDR, with LDR, you have to specify 32-bit address. So in that case, you will need addresses also. And all these addresses are given in a data sheet of ARM processor. 32-bit timer counter incremented whenever prescaler counter reaches to the terminal count. Right. So this is actually what is happening. TC will be incremented up to 0x FF because it is a 32-bit timer. So initially, it will be a 000. Then at every tick, now if your prescaler value is let's say it's not set, it's 0, then at every peripheral clock, your timer value will be incremented by 1. And finally, all these 32 bits will become 1, and then after it will work back to the 000. That means we call it as a timer overflow, where all ones will become 0, and that is called timer overflow. So this timer counter register will be incremented at every tick. Now tick will be defined by the prescaler register. If your prescaler register value is let's say 1, then at every 2 clock cycles, this TC will be incremented by 1. So initially, if you want to set this value to 0, then you can define in this way: T0 TC equal to 0x all 0. So initially, it will initialize to the 0. Similarly, for timer 1, you can write T1 TC equal to 0x000000. This you can set any value, initial value you can set any, and then after whenever you start the timer, automatically these values will be incremented at every tick. Now we talk about the prescale count register, that is a PC. So PC for a timer 0 is known as a T0 PC. PC for timer 1, that is a prescaler for timer 1, is known as a T1 PC. Both are having a hexadecimal 32-bit address associated with it. So this will be useful if you are doing the assembly language programming. If you are doing a C language programming, then you have not to worry about the addresses of all these registers. 32-bit prescaler counter control provides division of PCLK by some constant value before applying it to the timer counter. That means your timer counter registers will be incremented depending on what value you are setting in this prescaler register. Prescaler counter incremented on every peripheral clock pulse, and it reaches to the value stored in prescaler register, and then after it will reset. And whenever it will reset, it will provide a tick to that particular timer register, and timer register value will be incremented. Then there are match registers available. 4 match registers are given in ARM processor: MR0, MR1, MR2 and MR3. These match register values are continuously compared to the timer counter values, right? So initially your timer is 0, let's say, and if your match register value is 1000, and with help of it your peripheral clock, the timer value is increasing continuously from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. And whenever it will reach up to the 1000, both the values will be equal. Timer register value and match register, both value will be equal. And whenever both are equal, then certain actions are possible. So what are the actions possible? There are different actions are possible. One action possible is to generate interrupt. It can generate the interrupt. It can reset the timer relay counter automatically. As well, it can also stop the timer. So depending on your program, depending on your requirement, you can select the appropriate action. And how to configure this action? So this action can be configured with help of a MCR register, right? So for example, T0 MR0, this is a 10,000 value stored in MR0 register. So that means whenever your timer register will reach up to 10,000, this 3 action, any one of these 3 action will happen. So depending on your configuration stored in MCR register, depending on that, this action will occur. So this is the one sample program for the timer 0 underscore initialization. So basically this is a subroutine which will initialize your timer. So in initialization, what we do, T0 TCR equal to 0, that means we initialize timer register by value 0. T0 PR equal to 0, that means preset value we are setting to 0. T0 TCR equal to 0x02, that means we reset the timer. So these are some of the initialization instructions which we can use. Then this is a typical delay routing with help of a timer. We have used the software delay in earlier programs. In a software delay, what we do, we use the simple loop in which we declare some variable and we increment it until it reaches up to the certain limit. So it will be a pure software delay. This is a timer delay. In that, what we do is that T0 equal to TC, that is initially it will be 0. We reset the timer. We start the timer. 0x01 is to start the timer. Once you start the timer, your timer value will increment. And whenever it is less than or equal to certain ms, now ms is the variable, long integer variable, passes through this subroutine. So let's say we are calling this subroutine and we specify that delay into bracket 10,000, then value of this ms will be 10,000. And this timer will be incremented up to the 10,000. Let's say for example we call this subroutine like this in main program, delay into bracket, let's say 50,000, then value of this ms will be 50,000. Your timer will be incremented up to 50,000, and whenever it will reach up to that level, we will come out from this loop, and then after we will stop the timer. So this much delay will be provided by this while instruction. So while this T0 TC is less than ms, your timer will continuously increment at every tick, which is given by the peripheral clock. So the tick rate depends on peripheral clock as well as on the value which you have stored in a prescaler register. So this is how we will be able to use the delay using a timer. This is a sample program for the timer. This is a main program. This is a pin select. It will select the GPIO pin. IO0 DIR, that will make your port 0 as an output port. Timer 0 underscore initialization will call the timer function. This IO stat is initially FFFF, that means all pins are 1. Then after we are calling this with help of a timer delay. And as I told you that FF is passing, we are in a delay routine. That means this FF, that means 255 is passes to the ms variable, and that variable we are using in our delay subroutine. Then after this delay, we again clear all these pins, and again we call the timer delay subroutine here. So let me run this program in a kill so that you get exactly idea. Let me start the let me show you first of the kill program. Is this kill screen is visible to all of you?
I have.
It's visible, fine. So what we have written here is void timer 0 underscore initialization. That means it will initialize the timer. Then void delay, that is our delay subroutine. Unsigned integer I is equal to all these 5. Unsigned integer j is equal to all a means 1010, 55 means 0101, right? And so on. Pin select actually basically a register which will select the particular purpose of the pin, because one pin have a multiple function in an ARM processor. So if you want to use these pins as a GPIO pin, then ultimately we store all these values as a 000, then that all these pins we will be able to use as a GPIO pin. And even if we do not give this instruction, then also by default all the ARM pins are GPIO pins. IO0 DIR is initially all F, because we want to declare this GPIO pin as an output pins. Timer 0 initialization routine, which we have already written, we are calling just it here. Then inside the while one loop, what we say is IO0 set equal to j. That means whatever the j we are defining, whatever the bit positions are 1, those pin will be set to high. And IO0 clear equal to I, that means whatever the pin specified in this I variable, those pin will be cleared. And then after we provide the delay with help of a timer. So this is actually not a normal delay, it is a timer delay. Then after what we do, just we have interchanged the variables. With a set actually we have specified I instead of j, and with a clear we have specified j instead of I. So that means we want to toggle the pins. Whatever the pin is on, we want to make it off, and whatever the pin is off, we want to make it on. That's why we have done the interchange operation here. And then after we called the delay again. Now let us look at this delay subroutine. This initialization subroutine is same as what we have discussed. Here we can specify the prescaler value. Prescaler register is 8 here. That means that after every 8 clock pulse, the timer register will be incremented by 1. In this case, T0 TC equal to 0, that means initially we are resetting the timer. T0 TCR equal to 002, that means we are resetting the timer. We stop the timer, sorry. and then T0 TCR equal to 0x01, that means we start the timer, and your timer will run until the value which is stored in ms will reach. So for example, this ms, what we are calling here ms, we are passing this variable 0x000000ff means 255. We are passing 255. Even we can also write here directly 255. No need to write in a hexadecimal value, right? You can write directly decimal values, 1000, 255, 10,000, whatever the value you want to pass to the delay routine. So the same value will be transferred here in this variable, and then timer will stop whenever your timer register will reach up to this value 255, and then after we will stop the timer. After stopping the timer, we will return back to our main routine. So I will build this program here. Once I will build this program, my hex file will be ready. Now let us simulate this program in a Proteus. Is my Proteus screen visible to all? Okay. So I put one chip here. This is ARM chip for which we have written the program, and I put one oscilloscope here because I want to observe the waveforms on the port pins. So I have put one oscilloscope here. Let me zoom out this so that the connections are visible to you. P0.0 I have connected to one channel of oscilloscope, and 0.1 I have connected to another channel of oscilloscope. And let me specify the hex file here. So this is the hex file generator, timer.hex, and just 27th October 11:35 it is generated now. So I am specifying it here in this file, and then I will run this program, run simulation. As you can see that this is the signal coming on P0.0, and this is signal coming on P1.0. And all of you know that we have signed actually 5 in AA. 5 in AA means on bit 0, whenever there is a 1, at that time bit on bit 1 actually the logic 0 position will be there. And then after exactly reverse. Whenever bit 0 is at the logic 0, bit 1 will be at high position, because we are transferring either 5 or AA. That's why always we will be getting the toggling. So on all these port pins, this toggling will be available. I have not connected now this pin here. I will connect that also so that everything will be visible to you. So first of all, I will stop this simulation. Then I will connect remaining pins also with the oscilloscope. And then let's run this simulation again. As you can see here, this is a P0.0, 0.1, 0.2 and 0.3. 0.3's amplitude is lower because this setting is somewhere here, it is on 5. So I am putting it on 1 so that all amplitude will remain equal. So we'll be getting here a delay with help of a timer, right? Now if we change that value inside the delay routine, then this timer delay will change. So this is how we are basically using the internal timer to use it for a delay purpose. Now for example, if you want to do the counting process, then we can use this pin as a counter input pin, and instead of this timer register will be incremented by every PCLK, peripheral clock. In that situation, the timer value will be incremented by external pulses, right, instead of internal peripheral clock pulses. Okay, let me go back to my presentation again. So this is how we have done seen the simulation of this sample program for a timer. This is another program, sample program for a timer. In that actually we are calling delay of 500. So this value you can specify here either in hexadecimal or in a decimal, no problem. You can use any values here. This value will be passing to the ms variable. So up to ms variable, basically your timer will be incremented, and when timer will reach up to this value, we stop the timer, and then after we return to the main program. This is exercise for you. You can do yourself. Modify this program to generate square wave on port pin P1.10. So this is just this is homework for you. You can modify this program so that you will be able to generate the square wave on port pin P1.10. Right. So you have to set corresponding bit in this IODIR1, and here you have to specify IO set 1 and IO clear 1, because you are using port 1. That means you have to set here, instead of 0 you have to use 1 here. So just this is homework for you. You can do it yourself. Then let me discuss this pulse width modulation. Is very important for power electronics actually. Frequently we require motor drive application. So if you have a single phase motor, you require only one PWM. If you have even DC motor, you can control a speed of DC motor with help of only one pin with a pulse width modulation. But suppose if you have a 3-phase motor and you want to design a drive of for a 3-phase induction motor, then you require to operate total 6 MOSFET or IGBT. So you have to provide input to all these 6 MOSFET or IGBT, and all these 6 inputs will be a PWM, because you want to control the speed of motor. So in that case you require 6 PWM. Fortunately in ARM processor, in all ARM processor, we have a 6 PWMs are available, and the pins are dedicated for the PWM. P0.0 alternate function is PWM1, 0.7 alternate function is PWM2, P0.1 alternate function is PWM3, 0.8, 0.21 and 0.9. So from all these 6 pins, PWM is available. PWM is based on standard timer block, and it inherits all its features, and PWM function is pinned out from the chip, like this LPC2129, 2294, and for other chips you can always refer the data sheet on which pins PWMs are available. Right. PWM1 output is corresponding to PWM match register PWM MR1, PWM2 output corresponding to PWM MR2, and so on. That means for every this PWM output, there is a dedicated matching register is given. So if you change the value in this matching register, then you will be able to change the width in the pulse. So for example, if you have a 2 width available here, then naturally if you have a low value stored in this matching register, you will get a lower width. If you store higher value in this matching register, you will get a higher width. So this width is directly proportional to the value stored in this matching register. Right. So we have a 6 matching register corresponding to 6 PWM. So whenever timer will start, automatically it will compare it with the matching register, and it will stop. So here whenever timer will start, you will get a high signal here, and whenever matching occur, it will become low here. So automatically you will get that much width on these pins. So all these pins you will get the different width, but that width depends on the value stored in this PWM matching register. So this is how it's very easy in ARM processor to generate the PWM waveform. The timer is designed to count the cycles of the peripheral clock. Optionally, it can generate the interrupts to perform the other actions specified on timer value occurs, or based on the 7 match registers. All single edge PWM output will go high at the beginning of PWM cycle unless the match value is 0. Each PWM output will go low whenever its match value is reached. If no match occurs, if match value is greater than the period, then the output will remain high. That means we can say it is a active low PWM, right? So instead of there are two logic, one is active low and one is active high PWM. So in active low PWM, this the logic 0 width will change, You can see here. So this is actually active low PWM. 3 bits of PMW TCR are useful, very much useful in fact. How we are going to utilize this PWM for that purpose? So we have a bit 0, bit 1 and bit 2. Bit 0, if it is a 1, then it will enable the timer counter for a PWM. If it is 0, then it will disable timer counter for a PWM. So basically you can use timer counter even without PWM, but if you want to use your timer and counter for a PWM purpose, then this bit you have to enable to 1. Then for a bit 1, if it is a 1, then it will reset the timer and prescaler counter. So basically whatever the prescaler counter you have, a timer register you have, all this will be resetted to 0 if this bit 1 is a 1, and if it is 0, then there is no effect. And bit 2 is very important. It will enable the PWM mode. If you require a PWM output on those 6 pins, then compulsorily in this PWM TCR SFR, you have to set this bit 2 equal to 1. If you do not set it to 1, then PWM will not be generated at all. Right? So this is a very important bit to generate the pulse width modulation from the ARM dedicated pins. Is very few more important registers. PWM PR is a PWM prescaler register. PWM PR is used to control the resolution of PWM output. The timer counter will increment at every clock. Right. So if you want a smooth change in the width, then you should use prescaler equal to 0. If you say prescaler is equal to 1, then at every 2 clock pulse your PWM will increase, width will increase. So how smooth you require to generate the width modulation, depending on that you have to use this prescaler value, right? Then there are match registers we already discussed. There are actually 7 match registers. The first register PWM MR0 is to control the overall period of PWM. That means overall period means, for example, if you have a width like this, then this is actually overall period, right? This will remain same. Even if if your pulse width will reduce, then this it will be like this. So overall period will remain same. Only width will change. So overall period will be decided by PWM MR0, and then individual width for individual all these 6 PWM waveforms will be decided by PWM MR1 to PWM MR6 for all these 6 channels. So for all these 6 channels, width overall width remains same with help of this PWM MR0. Right. So this is a very much useful, because otherwise all these 6 will not be in a synchronized way, right? Then PWM match register, if you look at in a more detail, the PWM match control register is used to specify what operations can be done whenever value in a particular match register is equal to the value in timer register, that is a TC. So there are 3 options available. First operation is that if bit 0 is set, then generate interrupt on PWM MR0 match. So basically what it will happen, if you set bit 0 of PWM MCR, then that means you want to generate interrupt at every match, right? Then if you set bit 1, then you want to do reset timer counter on PWM MR0 match. That means you want to reset the timer counter register. And if you are setting the bit 2, that means you want to stop the timer whenever the matching occurs. So there are 3 different actions which you can take, as we have discussed in our earlier slide, that there are 3 different actions which you can set depending on the value you store in this control register, right? Similarly, you can see bits B3, B4, B5, etc. for PWM MR1, B6, B7, B8 for MR2, B9, B10, B11 for MR3, 12, 13, 14 for MR4, 15, 16, 17 for MR5, 18, 19, 20 for MR6. So you can individually set what action you want to take whenever matching occurs. So depending on what bit values you are storing here, depending on that the decision will be taken. PWM interrupt register. There is the interrupt register is available. If interrupt is generated by any of the match register, then corresponding bit in PWM MIR will set to high. Writing 1 to corresponding location will clear that interrupt. So interrupt will be generated, but if you want to clear that interrupt, then corresponding location you have to write 1. So for example, bits 0, 1, 2, 3 are for PWM MR0, PWM MR1, MR2 and MR3 respectively. 8, 9, 10 are for MR4, MR5 and MR6. So you have to write 1 to this bit position in order to clear the interrupt. Otherwise, that flag will remain high. Right? So if you want to clear the interrupt flag, then you have to write 1 at this corresponding location of all these bits in PWM interrupt register. Then PWM LER, that is a latch enabled register. Now this PWM latch enabled register is useful to control the way match registers are updated when PWM generation is active. Right. So while PWM generation is in progress, values return in a shadow register. So that means duplicate match registers are there. So every time whatever the values are there in a match register, it will be duplicated. The value is transferred to match register whenever PWM TC is reset at the beginning of next period. Corresponding bit in PWM LER is 1. Now why this is required? Because sometimes you want to dynamically change the width. And to change the width dynamically, you have to constantly change the value in a match register. But say if you want to remember the previous copy of match register, then naturally you have to copy it somewhere. So that copy is in this PWM LER, latch enable register. So that copy will be there, so it will be remembered, so that whenever you require it again, you will be able to transfer it back to the match register. Right? So that's why it is very important. One more is PWM control register. This register is also very important register because this register is used for selecting between the single edge and double edge output. Also to enable and disable for 6 PWM output which go to corresponding that pin. Now a single edge and double edge means, for example, if my width is changing like this, then I can say it is a single edge because it is going high to low on the same edge, but only the rising edge is different at different time. And for a double edge actually it is something like this. In that case your width will vary in this way. This is double edge, right? Where actually rise time will be somewhat early and fall time will be late whenever width is more. So here fall time will remain at the same time, only rise time will change, or sometimes it will happen in reverse way also. It can be like this also. This is also a single edge, right? Width is changing but rising edge remains same. In this case falling edge remains same. So whether you require a single edge or a double edge PWM output, for that actually this PWM PCR is very useful. So in this case bit number 2 to 6 are used to select between the single or double edge mode for a PWM 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. When you set these bits, it will provide you a double edge PWM. When you reset this bit, it will provide you a single edge PWM. Right? And bits 9 to 14 are used to enable or disable PWM outputs for PWM 1 to PWM 6 respectively. Right? If it is set, it is enabled. If it is 0, then PWM is disabled. Somebody has turned on the microphone. I don't know who is that fellow. Let me switch mute all again. This is a typical program to generate the PWM waveform, pulse width modulation waveform. Is it visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is basically, it will initialize the PWM. So whatever the registers we have discussed in a PPT slide, these all registers, some values are given here. So pin select, actually, as I discussed, that if you want to utilize pin for a different purpose, then you have to use this pin select 0. So here you can see I have taken this as a 1. So I want to use this PWM 1 output for pin 0.0. For that purpose I am setting here, this is to 1. If I set to 0 these, then this P0.0 will be useful only for a GPIO. But I don't want to utilize it for GPIO only. I want to generate the PWM from this pin. So because of that I am changing the mode of this pin. And mode of this pin I can select with help of a pin select 0 register. So pin select 0 is for port 0 and pin select 1 is for port 1. PWM PCR equal to 0, this will select the single edge PWM, right? PWM PR equal to 1, that means prescaler we are setting to 1, so it will decide the PWM resolution, right? If you want to increase the PWM in step, we can set this value, let's say 100 or 1000 or whatever prescaler you require. So in that case your PWM will not be that much smooth, right? Then PWM MR equal to 10,000. That means PWM duration is decided by this PWM MR0 register. So here the resolution is 1 microsecond and duration is a 10 millisecond. Right? So here 1 we are specifying, that means 1 microsecond is the resolution and 10 millisecond is overall duration of our pulse. PWM MR1 I am writing 2500, that means I want to set 2.5 millisecond width for that particular pulse, which is generated on PWM 1 pin. So 2.5 millisecond I want to generate, so I am writing here PWM MR1 equal to 2500. If I want to generate 5 millisecond pulse, then I can write here 5000. If I require, let's say 7.5 millisecond, then I can write 7500. So that means 75% duty cycle. So in this case, total duration is 10 millisecond. The pulse which you are generating is a 2.5 millisecond duration. So it is a 25% duty cycle. Right. Similarly, if I make this 10,000, then 100% duty cycle. That means PWM will not be generated at all. That pin will remain active high continuously. If I make this equal to let's say 1000, then it will produce 1 millisecond pulse, that means 10% duty cycle. So ultimately I can change width of pulse generated on PWM1 output with help of this matching register. So whenever timer register will reach up to this value, the matching will occur, and at the output it will go high or go low depending on the value which we store. Right. So in this case, that will be decided by PWM MCR. That means we want to reset the PWM TC on whenever the matching occurs. So for that purpose we are writing here 1 at that bit position. In PWM LER, we are setting both these bits, bit 0 and bit 1. Basically, we want to update the value of MR0 and MR1. And because of that, we are writing 1 at both these bit positions. And then PWM PCR, bit number 9 we are enabling because we want to enable the PWM output for a PWM 1. Then if you want similarly for PWM2 and PWM3, you can enable corresponding bits using these instructions. So depending on what type of how many PWMs you require, depending on that you have to set particular bits in PWM, PCR, SFR. And at the end, PWM TCR corresponding bit number 1 is set to 1, so it will reset the PWM TC and PR. So it will basically reset the timer values and prescaler values. And then we enable the counters and PWM mode. Then we start the timer and the PWM will start actually. Right? So this is actually how we initialize this PWM. I will show you the final program also in a maybe let me discuss this first. Actually time is less, but still I have some 3 to 4 minutes with me, right? Two match registers can be used to provide a single edge control PWM output. One match register controls the PWM cycle rate by resetting count upon the match. The other match register controls the PWM edge position. Right? So if you additional single edge control PWM output requires only one match register, since the repetition rate is same for all PWM outputs. Multiple single edge control PWM output will have a rising edge at the beginning of each PWM cycle. So whenever MR0 match occurs. So we can use 3 match registers we can use to provide a PWM output to both, so that both edges can be controlled if you use the 3 match registers. Again, the MR0 match register controls the PWM cycle rate. The other match registers will control the 2 PWM edge positions. Additional double edge controlled PWM outputs will require only 2 match registers for each, since the repetition rate is same for all PWM outputs. So I think with for example, if you require with the double edge control PWM outputs, specific match registers controls the rising and falling edge of the output. Rising edge and falling edge means this is how in a double edge things it will be in this way: rising edge and falling edge. So in case of a double edge, you require to change both rising edge and falling edge. But in case of a single edge, either you require a falling edge or a rising edge. You require control for only one edge. So actually it depends on programmer how programmer will set the bits in corresponding control registers. This is, I think, already we have seen. I think this was about the pulse width modulation. By this, I think my presentation ends. But before that, I again want to convey that wear mask whenever you are outside the home. Keep social distancing. Sanitize your hands regularly. This is very much required because now in prevailing situation, corona is in controlled way. It's controlled, and we want to keep it the same. We want to reduce it further. So because the festival season is coming, so please take care. And if you permit, I will show you that kill program for PWM. Otherwise, it is same which was there in the slide. But I don't know. You have some other lectures now, so just I will show you, and then we will stop here. I will show you this PWM program. Is it visible to all? The kill slide which I have shared with you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is actually for a PWM generation. Let me show this file actually. It's not that. think it is overwritten. Let me open another file. Anyway, time is less, so I think tomorrow I will show you that simulation of that PWM also, and we will also start the ADC, because ADC is now pending. So tomorrow we will start analog to digital conversion, as well as I will show you the demonstration of this generation of PWM waveform using a simulation in Kill as well as in a Proteus. So I think I will stop here. If you have any questions, you can ask, and then we will stop it here.